Oof. Mm. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and
Woo!
clear,
Awesome.
girlfriend.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
So let's see. It is already recording.
Okay.
So I guess I'll just start with my spiel, and we'll see if people hop on. That way, they're not missing your good stuff.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, for those of you watching the replay, I am April Small and I am your creativity geek. I basically live and breathe art and sharing art and seeing what other people are doing artistically and how we can bring creativity to business and all the fun stuff that we can incorporate with our lives, especially to reduce stress, to reduce anxiety, and to give that feeling of accomplishment that we all like, that feels so good. Plus, like when you're in creative flow, that's when we find our joy. That's where we're in our happy place as human beings, because we like to express ourselves. Even if you feel like you're not artistic, trust me, you have it in you in some way. You do something that's creative. And I am a little sick tonight. I'm literally shedding my clothes right now because I'm so sweaty. I feel like heck, but that's okay. We're going to have so much fun anyway because I'm so excited. This is the first episode, and I have the wonderful Angela Hall, and I am really excited to kick off this series. Thank you so much for anyone that tunes in. And well, like, where do I start? No, so this is all for my group Creating Heart, which is turning into my creative life coaching business, which I will start doing one-on-one and group coaching for people, two different kinds of people. One is going to be for the people that want to nourish their life with a creative habit, and the other is people that are business owners or want to be artistic business owners that need to bring creativity to their business or get their business started. So, very excited, and without any more hesitation, let's dive in to the awesome information that Angela Hall is going to share with us tonight. So, how about we start with letting you introduce yourself?
Okay, so my name is Angela Hall. I am an interior designer and I own Friar Tuck Design Company. Behind me, I think she's sleeping. That's Gypsy. She is my chief doggy officer. So I am a new-ish business owner. I officially went into business for myself as of October of this past year. So it's been 4, 5 months-ish, give or take. So very exciting endeavor. So I live in Merrimack, New Hampshire with my husband, Mike, and my 10-year-old son, Cameron, who I call my mini-me design assistant because he's also very artistic and he loves coming with me when I'm trying to select furniture or paint or different nuances for any of the clients that I'm working with. So he's my mini-me design assistant. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That's so awesome, and I love that you get your kids involved. It's fun to share it with them. I mean, Lillian's a little too young right now, but she does like to paint, so I'm feeling like she'll catch on to what's going on there
Absolutely,
too.
absolutely. And Cameron is really talented himself. He does amazing, amazing drawings. Obviously, his drawings are more geared towards things that interest him, in particular Pokemon. So right now, he's drawing a few characters for some of my husband's coworkers. So that's kind
That's
of
so
his,
cool.
yeah, that's kind of his deal. So he'll draw different things for my husband's coworkers. Actually, one coworker moved down to North Carolina a few months back, and she took a picture of Kylo Ren that he drew, and it's framed, and it's in her home office in North Carolina. So his artwork traveled north.
Awesome. It sounds like you have a future artist on your hands. That's so amazing.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, first, let's start off with what exactly is your creative outlet?
I feel like I have lots of creative outlets. I feel like what I do for work is a creative outlet because I have to solve problems for my clients how do I incorporate color into their space? How do I figure out an appropriate layout? How do I incorporate artwork? Things of that nature. So my job by what I do every day, day in and day out, is creative. However, that's not the only creative outlet I have. I also tinker around with different projects in my own home. Just recently, I completed a $100 room challenge in my upstairs bathroom. So myself and I believe 30 other DIY, home decor, interior design bloggers, we were tasked with during the month of January to select a room in our home and redesign it for $100 or less. So I enjoy doing those types of projects around my house, seeing how I can get the biggest bang for my buck. So completed that most recently, and then I am participating in April in what's called the One Room Challenge. So this is a little bit more of a larger scale challenge. I know that Better Homes and Gardens, they're a major sponsor of the challenge. So that's taking place in April. The room is to be determined, but it'll probably be my entryway since the next project in my home is my home office. Just after the holidays, it got flooded because the day that we had that really nice, warm, random 60-degree day, our house got heated up from all the cooking we were doing. So we decided, hey, let's turn on the air conditioning, and tons of condensation collected and shot down into my office in a big puddle.
My gosh.
Yeah, so luckily there wasn't really any damage, but of course, a huge puddle on my carpet could have led to mold. So we ripped up the carpeting, which is fine. I didn't like it anyway. So we're going to be doing all new flooring. We're going to be painting the walls and a few other minor updates to the office to get it up and running. So we're going to be kicking that off this weekend. But outside of interior design, which is obviously my bread and butter and what I love to do every day, I also enjoy baking. I love baking birthday cakes for my son's birthday. So whatever theme the birthday happens to be, I try to make a cake surrounding it. So I've done Pokemon birthday cake. I've done a BB-8 birthday cake when it was a Star Wars themed birthday party, a Super Mario cake, and then last year was an Avengers theme. So I did Captain America shield for Cameron's birthday cake. So that, and then my son is a scout. He actually just transitioned from Cub Scouts into Boy Scouts this past weekend, and every year they have a blue and gold banquet to celebrate the birthday of scouting. So I get tasked every year to decorate some sheet cakes and incorporate some sort of scouting theme. So this year I did one cake, which is the Arrow of Light, which is the highest rank that you can achieve as a Cub Scout. And then the other cake is the pack number, so pack 525. So that piece, and then tied to the birthday cake and baking piece, I also enjoy event planning. So whenever
Wow.
I'm planning Cameron's birthday parties, I always try to make the items, so the decorations, goodie bags, those sorts of things. So
Me
yeah,
too, to be
yeah,
honest.
it's
I
so much. It's so much fun.
love event planning. I
Mhm.
love tying pieces together. I'm so with you.
Yep,
And I love how you
exactly.
incorporate a lot of that stuff into your life.
Yep.
So you're creative and you just love to just feed
Mhm.
that creativity in your regular everyday.
Absolutely.
So tell us, how did you get started in your trade?
I think interior design has been something I've always been drawn to. When I was a child, I used to watch This Old House with my parents and watching Bob Vila and doing the different renovations. And then on Sunday mornings, I know this is odd for a child to be drawn to this, but there was a show called ISoldMyHouse.com, and you would so you would watch video of different houses that were for sale, and I was always drawn to it and what the people's houses looked like and the arrangement of furniture, the paint, all of that. So I was always drawn to it in some way, shape, or form. But as I was getting close to going away to college when I was 18 necessarily dawn on me that it could be a potential career path. So I went off to college at 18 years old studying psychology and communications and kind of went out in the working world. After that, I spent 10 years working in higher education, a number of different roles, and really over the past few years, I started to really get into interior design, whether it's in my own home or helping my family with their homes. My in-laws had to, they downsized, so they sold their home that they were in for 40 years and downsized. So helping them get ready and staging their house. And then also my father, when he sold his condo to come live with us, helping him and doing different projects and really a series of different events in my life. About 2 years ago, I got really sick with just some unexplained virus that left me bedridden for 3 weeks. And then after that, I went through a pretty gnarly depressive episode. And then after that, one of our close family friends, their 18 years old son passed away. So those events, kind of one right after another, really kind of hit me over the head and made me realize that my life is too short to not be doing what I love day in and day out. So August of 2018, I walked away from higher education and went back to school for interior design and really never looked back. So that's the story.
That's so amazing though.
Yeah,
And I love that, you realized that life is too short to not live out your dreams. And like one of the things I try to tell people all the time is that it's so very possible, if you have a passion, to
hmm
make it your career. I mean,
absolutely.
there are so many of us that have, and that's a big part of why we started this series, because people like you, that we need to show like it's possible. If you have an idea, go with it, because
Yep.
you can do it.
Mhm.
Anybody can. It's not just me, it's you, it's the writer, it's the painter, it's the crochet person that makes all that cool stuff
Yep.
that people start buying. And there's just so many cool different avenues we can go down.
hmm Absolutely.
So, how about you tell us a little bit about like your childhood and stuff? Were you creative growing up? Were you always like
Absolutely.
this?
No, I was always like this. I was definitely a creative child. I was not athletic in any way. Definitely lean more towards the creative side of things. I always loved to draw. I loved coloring. One of the best gifts that I ever got for Christmas was a huge art set with colored pencils, crayons, markers, pastels, you name it, in that little kit. So I could kind of go to town and play around with different mediums. So, and then making little crafts like the different keychains out of perler beads. My son actually really enjoys that as well. So got that from his mom. Making like those pot holders with the little loops, friendship bracelets, those sorts of things. So I've always been creative and trying to do things with my hands and be a creative person. That kind of followed me a little bit in college. Whenever we had a banquet, I mean, I consider this creative, but I would always do my friends or my roommates' hair to get ready for the banquet. And doing that, it's hard to do your own hair, so you might as well do somebody else's. And then I've also been really strong with music. I played the violin from third grade to 12th grade, so all the way through high school, and I also sang in chorus from middle school all the way through 12th grade. So all throughout the different facets and layers of my life, I've had creativity as a central part of it. So it's always been with me.
Totally.
hmm
It stinks that you live so far away. I feel like you would have been best friends.
Probably, yeah.
Because
I,
I was
I
always
kind of
up
grew
to
up near
something
you. I
new.
know we were talking about this anyway. Growing up in Milford, it's not that far away from where you are right now.
Yeah, it's not that far away, but we would never have met. But like I did many different random things too, and I think we would have just loved having a little friend to do all these random things with. I feel like
Absolutely.
I was always doing them on my own because no one wanted to do all the different things I wanted to try. Did you feel like you were kind of a little bit of a loner just trying stuff out?
Yeah, I think most definitely. Not in the way of just trying different things out, but I, by nature, am very introverted and shy. So I had my core group of a couple of friends, and I was always friendly with people, but it was very hard for me to kind of branch off. So, I mean, my core group of people were the music and theater kids. So
Yeah.
that's how I rolled, and
Yeah, I
had
find
it any other
it
way.
like a really common factor that artistic people are a little bit on the introverted side. I mean, there are some extrovert ones, but I feel like for the most part, it's a lot of introverts.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say your biggest challenge is?
I think my biggest challenge doing what I do is that I'm on my own little island. So my business is me, myself, and I. Of course, I have my chief doggy officer sleeping back there, and I have my family supporting me, but it's not like other jobs that I've had where if I have a question on something, I can't just turn my seat, ask that question, or walk down the hall and ask that question. It's it can be almost isolating at times. So
Yeah, you kind of
I've
have to
really
figure it
relied
out.
heavily on different networking groups. Obviously, that's how I met you and met
Yeah,
other people. So having to rely on that and not being afraid to ask those questions. I think that's the most challenging part is being on your own island, you know, not being 100% sure how to navigate it. Um, I kind of liken being an entrepreneur and having your own business in a similar fashion to being a parent. When you give birth to your child, you're not given a manual that says, okay, this is exactly how you have to raise your child. I think being an entrepreneur and being a small business owner is very much the same way. There is no manual that you're handed to help guide you along the way. Yes, you can get advice from other business owners, you can take workshops and things, but there's no one concrete path that you go down. So I think the being on your own island and having to kind of navigate things has been the most challenging for sure.
absolutely. I can definitely relate.
Mhm.
What's a piece of advice maybe you'd give someone?
I think not being afraid to ask questions, and even to the point of if you're connecting with someone or you identify someone that is in a role that you're in or doing something you aspire to do, asking them to meet up for coffee if you're local or asking them to do a Zoom call. I think the biggest thing that I've learned in going through this journey is that the female entrepreneur community is so warm and welcoming and always willing to answer your questions or take that 10, 15 minutes to have that call or that cup of coffee with you to walk you through some things or have you pick their brain. So I think don't be afraid to ask. I think that's so important. And, down the road, you'll get to that place where you'll see that new entrepreneur asking for help and then you can kind of pay it back or pay it forward.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
So I know that you have a fun little creative thing that we can do at home to share.
And you can. So I'll
Very
show you the
exciting.
finished product. So it's gonna look backward. Well, yeah, it's gonna look backwards, but so I created this sign that says grateful, and I will show you how to do it yourself. It's through a program called Canva, which I absolutely love and use every day for different graphics, PDFs, you
Me
name
too.
it. Yep. So
Yeah.
for those who don't know, it's a graphic design interface, and there's a free version, which I use, and then there's a pro version that you can most certainly use, but in any way.
Yep.
So
Literally, you can skate by on the free one because there's so much stuff to
you
use.
totally can.
You
You
don't have to
absolutely
even
can.
pay.
You absolutely
Definitely.
can. And I think that's the case with any type of software you're trying to incorporate into your business is that try out the free version and see if you can operate with the functionality of that as you're getting started. So,
Absolutely. Don't take on more expenses than you need to,
no,
especially when you're first
absolutely not.
starting.
You do not need the pro version of Canva to make it work and do what you need it to. So, all right. So I am going to attempt to share my screen and I will walk
Do I need
everyone
to do
through.
anything?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. I mean, do I need to do anything to make it so you can share it? Oh,
Nope, I don't think so.
it looks good. Thumbs up,
Yay!
girlfriend.
Okay. All right. So I'm just on Google, but in order to get to Canva, it's canva.com.
Yep.
All right. And then over here on the left-hand side,
I can't hear you. Maybe put the microphone closer to your mouth.
okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so over here on the top left, you want to click on Create a Design. And then from here, you can choose all sorts of options. I use the social media one all the time if I'm creating graphics and things for Instagram and Facebook. But you can create business cards, posters, all sorts of things. But for the purposes of our project today, we're going to go up to the top of that and click on Custom Dimensions. Okay, so once I click on that, it'll ask you for the width and the height of the project that you're creating. So it'll automatically default to pixels. So for the purposes of this, you'll want to shift over 2 inches. And where we're doing this project to go in a picture frame, so when I was kind of playing around to figure out the sizing of this earlier, I found that the most optimal size, so for width, you're going to put in 7 inches, and for height, you type in 5 inches. And then once you do that, you'll enter in Create Design. Okay, so then you should see a nice blank screen to start to play around with. And really the best piece of advice with Canva in general, whether you're doing it for printables like I'm showing or for social media, posters, whatever, is just play around. You're not going to break anything. Worst case scenario, if you don't like what you've just created, you can always start from the beginning, create a new design. So that's my piece of advice there. So first up, we want to add some text to our nice blank canvas here. So over on the left-hand side in our toolbar, we're going to click on text. And then I'm going to pick the largest add a heading. So that just pops up on your screen. And then again, you could really interchange with what I'm showing you. So you don't just have to type the word grateful. You could do blessed, you could do family, you could do home sweet home, whatever the case may be. But again, just to make it consistent with what I printed out and what I showed you, we'll type in the word grateful. And obviously it doesn't look like the finished product, so we want to make a few adjustments. So first we want to change the style of font. So up here, we click on the drop down, and instead of scrolling through all the hundreds and hundreds of types of fonts, so the font that I'm using is called Playful Script. I think that's such a fun name. Okay, so Playful Script. So it changes the font. And then we also want to make the font size much bigger to really fill up the page. So if we click, and then we want it to be an 88 size, boom, there we have it. And then I want to shift it to be more centered on our canvas. With the mouse, we're just going to drag it. And then once you see kind of the fuchsia pink grid come up, we're good to go. It's centered. So we have the word, and now we need our pretty leaves on the page. So again, this is a great opportunity to play around with different leaves, flowers, whatever floats your boat. So up above where it says text, you're going to click on elements. And again, there's all sorts of shapes and stickers, and you could go nuts with it and just spend days playing around with Canva, but we're not doing that today. So since I recently used this one, we'll click on it. It's the same one I used. So you'll see that it's purple and lavender, and for my finished product, it was black. So really quickly, we're gonna click on this purple color, switch it over to black. So you can see that that piece changed on the leaf motif, and then the same thing with the lilac lavender color. Click on it, and then change that to black. Okay, so then the next piece we want to do is we want to move this to, we'll start with the upper left-hand corner. So I will drag this guy. And then the nice thing about Canva is that it'll stop you when you're reaching the edge. So there we go. And it's a little too big for the picture. Once you start entering in all the other leaves, it's going to encroach in on the grateful. So you just want to adjust it just a tiny bit. So if you hover around the bottom right, then these arrows will pop up. So you're going to drag, and you want the width to be 2 and the height to be 1.6. So we're going to drag it ever so slightly. Okay, so we have the first one, and now we need to do the other 3. So really a simple Control-C, Control-V action, some nice keyboard shortcuts. So we'll move this guy over to where we want to position it. Here we go. And then we're going to click on flip up here. So we're going to flip our design. Look at that. And then another Control-C, Control-V. Bring this guy down to the edge. Then we're going to flip. And then one last time, Control-C, Control-V. And then we are going to flip. So there we have our grateful, we have our leaves surrounding it. So next step is to get it ready to print out. So up here on the top right-hand corner, click on the Publish button, and then click on the download link. And then I keep it to the PNG file. If it suggests it, why mess around? So I'll download it. Then it gives you a nice little quote as it's preparing your design, which I think is lovely. And then it also tries to sell you on Canva Pro, but don't fall for it. You can get a whole bunch done while you're doing things for free. So I'll click out of that. Okay. So from there, and then you'll want to save the picture that you just created. And then from there, you want to open up a Word document. So I have my Word document opened up. The first thing you want to do, so again, where this is more of a landscape, we want the actual piece of paper to be landscape. So if you click up here to layout, orientation, landscape, there we have it. And then we're going to insert our picture. So I go to pictures. Da, da, da. Okay, there we go. And then we want this to be a little bit bigger. So the frame that I used here, since I didn't know how much of the audience actually has a paper cutter at home, the one odd thing about picture frames is that a regular sheet of paper is 8.5 by 11, and the next closest size for a picture frame is 8 by 10. So if you print anything out to put into a picture frame that fits that frame, you're going to have to cut some things. So this picture frame is actually a certificate frame. I got this at Dollar Tree, so that's another piece of advice, is that the Dollar Tree has great picture frames, candle holders, different decorative things, so check them out. you can always get a good bargain there. So certificate frame is 8.5 by 11. So you can definitely do that. But I want to make sure that this really takes up that full piece of paper. So I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to go to size and position, and I am going to uncheck lock aspect ratio, and I want my height to be 8 inches and my width to be 10 inches. We'll click OK. So as you can see that it's a little shifted over. So we want to adjust the margin so that it prints out nice, even, and pretty. So once again, we're going to go back up here to layout and then to margins. So I have it set as a custom setting, but you can go down to custom margins and create it for yourself. But the top and the bottom margin you want set to 1/4 of an inch, and then the left and right margin you want set to 1/2 an inch. So it's ready to go. Print it out, pop it in your frame, and you're good to go. So one final tip with any sort of printable that you print out off the internet or anything that you create, make sure that you print it out either on matte photo paper or cardstock. If you print it out on a regular piece of paper, once you put it in the picture frame, you may notice because it's much thinner, it's going to be a little wavy, have like a ripply effect. So make sure you have a little bit more of a heavier piece of paper when you're doing printables. So there you
That's
have it. That's how
awesome.
you get from what I just did to that.
You know what's really cool is I learned a few things about Kip that I didn't know how to do that
Yeah,
I'm really thrilled about because I use it on like a daily basis. So you schooled me, my friend. I'm so
there you go.
excited.
Yay. Awesome. I mean, I just learned
And
from playing around. So,
you know what? I think this will also inspire people to use Canva for, their business promotions and stuff like that, and for decorating stuff at home. And like, how cool is that? And how many times do we go to Walmart or wherever and we spend $10, $20 on these things we could actually be making ourselves?
absolutely. I actually want to test this. So my library is really, really cool, and they have a Cricut machine that you can borrow for 2 weeks. So you can bring
Wow.
home the Cricut machine.
I don't think
Obviously,
my
you have
library
to be
does
the one.
that.
It's pretty cool. So
That is
you have to
awesome.
be the one to provide, obviously, the vinyl, infusible ink, or whatever you're using. So I went to Michael's and bought some vinyl, some black vinyl. So I'm going to try and see if I can incorporate what I created onto a canvas
Cool.
by printing it onto the vinyl. So
Super
fingers
cool.
crossed. I've never used a Cricut machine before, so
You'll have to let us know how it goes.
I will let you know how it goes.
Feel free to post right in Creating Heart, and you can always share any of your projects at any
Okay.
time. I keep trying to tell people that, and no one does. I'm like,
Yeah.
you can share freely in here. You can
Yep.
post in there. So
Mhm.
anyone watching this, if you have a project you want to share, like share with us. Where it's all about creativity and having that creative habit and sharing it with others.
Yep.
And I want to thank you for
Absolutely. This was fun.
coming on and being my very first interview,
Your guinea
and
pig.
talking to you has been a pleasure over the last month or two, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing us both learn and grow,
Mhm.
because I can't wait to see where your business goes. And I
Yeah.
know that you're talking about doing some maybe decorating like over through online through the internet,
Mhm.
like a virtual decorator.
Yeah. So as far as my business, it's not um, restricted to
Yep.
face to face. I am looking to branch out to working with clients virtually. So I'm testing the waters with that. So I've asked a couple of people. I'm offering my services free of charge, but really walking through the process with them. They give me feedback on how the process is going. The only downside to working with an interior designer virtually is that I'm not showing up at your house taking photographs or measurements. So I have to rely on your measurements to really dictate how the design goes. So
Yep.
they need to be accurate. So that's the important piece, but everything else you can very easily do on a Zoom call like we're doing right now, over the phone, email. And then as far as like the e-design piece, what I would do is once I get the measurements in the pictures and I've talked with the client as far as what their needs are, what they like, what they don't like, what design style they naturally gravitate towards, all of that information and then some, then I'll go on my end and I'll create 2 mood boards, and I'll also create a floor plan and a perspective drawing for the client. And with those mood boards, I'll present some options. So, for example, if I was designing a living room, presenting options for sofas, accent chairs, coffee table, end tables, whatever the client needs that isn't staying in their current room. And 2 mood boards, they can go with all of option one, all of option two, kind of mix and match. Most clients that I do this very similar process with clients I meet with face to face, and I don't think I've ever had a client that has picked all of one option for whatever reason. They'll like, oh, I really like this sofa in option one, but I really like this end table in option two, and kind of mix and matching. But that's how I want it to be. I want it to be fun. I don't want it to be a restrictive process where it's, I'm prescribing this to you and you have to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
and then
agree with that. Even with the paint night, it's all about people having a little bit of creative freedom as well.
yep,
I think that that's important. I mean, like, you're including them in the creative process and
absolutely.
allowing them to be a little creative themselves. So
Yeah.
that's cool. You're like you're facilitating a little bit of
Mhm.
creativity for them.
Absolutely. And I think for me, what I love about what I do in particular is that I'm giving people the confidence to really own what their home is going to look like. Because
Yep.
I would never want it to be all, this is what I prescribe to you and here you go, because that may not be exactly what that client really wants.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to thank you one last time. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate you for all your time. Thank you for being my first. I'm going to save this recording
Mhm.
and then I'll upload it probably to YouTube and then I'll be able to share the link. So when I
Good.
do that, I'll also tag you and your businesses along with it when I post.
Okay. Sounds good.
And I'm going to get some rest.
Oh
I
my
hope
gosh,
you do
yes. Feel
too.
better.
I know. I'm glad I made it through. I feel like it wasn't too bad, but I was like, before I was getting ready to go on, I was like, I'm in a bit of a fog. I hope I can think straight.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
That's
yeah.
okay. I feel okay.
All right. Well, get some rest and I hope you feel better.
You too, and thank you so much. I will talk to you
Absolutely.
soon.
All right.
And thank you
Bye.
everyone for looking and watching the replay. Bye.
Bye.